Yes, thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, well,
Is
I
that
don't, I guess we'll just sort of jump in. I know that we wanted to get talking. Did you, I know the image I have in my mind that the conversation uh, that sort of you and I first had was outside of your cage match. Um,
right?
Installation outside of the Museum of Human Achievement, which was just so beautiful in that space. And that's such a hard space to um, make beautiful. So I was thinking about while you were installing that, how we were having a little kiki one day. I think it was quite hot, probably, right? But did do you feel like talking at all about how clothing and textile starts in your work, or when that started as a theme? And maybe we could jump off from there, and, or you could talk about anything else you wanted to, if you want to say no, not in the mood.
Yeah, I'll break the improv rule, right? No, and um, well, clothing is always actually it's from the very beginning of my work. Back in undergrad, like I was once I found and latched onto that, it was just like there's just so many different possibilities and so many things you can emote and connect to with clothing. So yeah, in my undergrad work, I think the first thing I used was pantyhose. I did like this whole installation with pantyhose that were filled with spices, and it was like this very aromatic kind of installation.
Wow.
So, I had like people just walking through the gallery, going up and like sniffing these crotches and getting oregano and basil and all this.
That sounds amazing. I'm glad I missed that one. Smell is so tied to memory too, and pantyhose are tied to memory for me, at least. Like I don't. Recently, I was informed that women don't wear them anymore because I was out of the loop, I guess, and I would sit there for a second and I was like, wow, it's very true. Like it just didn't hit me
Yeah,
that it's sort of like a bygone era. Now it's the leggings on everything era. So
true, true. Leggings on everybody, on men and women and everyone
mhm.
around the spectrum of gender. Like it's just it's like the uniforms. We're heading into that like common image of like people in the future from like sci-fi, where it's like everyone's wearing leggings and like tightly fitting spandex outfits and
Yeah, I mean, you're so right, and I'm both pleased and unpleased by this.
right.
Like
I'm
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 so
wearing leggings
mixed.
for now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's see what else. I wanted to see. I also, and forgive me if I'm just like boom, 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 but I was, of course, like reviewing some images and looking at things and thinking about performance too, because you've been performing a lot recently. Well, before, when I think of recently, I'm probably like back in time, Wayne's World style. But back when we could be in person with each other, you were performing a lot. And I love to speak to people about their feelings and experience with performance, because I feel like we don't kind of talk about that a lot outside of workshops
Mhm.
for performance and preparing and helping one another perform. But if you're in the mood at all to speak about preparing for performance, and then also like how you come out of using your body as art, like how do you sort of come off of the stage, so to speak, and like what happens mentally after that, and then also what happens with the work after that. So is it a time of writing, reflection? Do you go straight into editing photos? Any of that is of great interest to me.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I guess to start off with, I feel like a lot of my performance work is stemming from my sculptural and installation practice, as opposed to, there are theatrical elements, and I feel like lately I've been doing even more of them, but I feel like I'm using my body as like just another material for the most part. Um, and I like to just set up parameters for a performance and like different points that I want to hit, and and then kind of let a lot of things fill in themselves in the moment, and so it has that kind of spontaneity and that energy that you get from like live things. Like they say, don't work with uh, children and animals in theater, because like they do things that are so much more real than a theatrical performance can be. And I want to leave kind of it up to that, like, hey, maybe there is a dog that comes up and pees on my leg in the performance, and that just becomes part of it. So yeah, so there's that. And then afterwards, I feel like I get that post-artdom kind of feeling, like depression, not depression, but it's like, there's definitely come down because you're so in it in the moment, and there's that like adrenaline rush, and there's that connectivity that you have with the audience that's very visceral, and you're just like, so much more than like putting up artwork in a wall that's static, and you can see people interacting with it, but it's different. Like when you're looking people in the eyes, and they become part of it too, that energy, that interchange. So I feel like I just kind of leave it and kind of just deal with the emotional.
Okay. Yeah.
How
I
about you though? I want to know about you, because like your work. I mean, I know you do a lot of work that's video based, but there is a performative nature to what you do too. How would you compare those two
yeah.
things?
I mean, I feel like throughout my life, I end up performing because it is the way to get something I want done. It's sort of a means to an end. And it's also the biggest challenge. Like it really, I remember being at doing a 60 for 60 and 60 for fuse box, and like I was like number 40 something, and I'm gonna have a heart attack before I get up there for 1 minute to do this thing. But I get so, it's so challenging for me. I get so nervous and my energy becomes absolutely frantic, and so depending on the duration of the performance, I can pretty much lose my mind. So I actually have to have sort of like a post-performance way of moving. And for me, I have to get writing pretty quickly. So I've tried that more than not, because I think if I'm doing anything verbal in the performance, I also will like, oh, I can't quit talking now, so I'll have to, sort of like come down off of whatever energies has spun up into me, which is sort of a tempest in a teapot, because I don't think I externalize that much, depending on the show. I once felt upstairs and like after a performance because I was so, like out of my head. So it's interesting to me. I haven't done, I don't think I've performed longer for like 2 or 3 hours. That might be wrong. But when I watch people that can go 8 hours or more, I'm very intrigued by like what that process is.
Mhm.
Um, so and I'm always curious to hear what people are saying about that, but yeah, I mainly I get really nervous, and then I have to figure out how to bring my body back out of the situation,
Mhm.
so
Yeah, maybe I need to work on that, because I do feel like it's just this abrupt kind of fall. Maybe I need to
yeah.
bring myself back into real life.
Well, and part of what we're often doing in performance work that's like visual art based is that not only are we creating the spectacle, but also we're creating the boundaries. So if we're in, there's no proscenium arch, there's no curtains, there's no stage, there's no formal seats. So we're having to put that energy into the space of also not only like what is my body going to do, but how do I want your body to be? And like, you have to sort with whether it's with your eyes or any number of these things, and it's very challenging. So I think that takes a real amount of you know chutzpah and trying to get to where you need to be with putting that energy in the right place. I don't know if that's making a lot of sense.
No, it does. It does. I mean, it's like a multitasking to a different level in ways. Your brain is
Mhm.
process so many things, even though it's one. task, there's lots of layers to it.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested in your kind of, I feel like it's a transition into uh, more theatrical type work. Would you call it that? Or is it just a path on away from the main road, or how, yeah, tell me about that.
Yeah, no, I think theater is the word for it. I do, because there are certain, and that's exactly probably why, describing this idea of having to set up boundaries in performance work in the visual art world, or in the fine art world, or whatever, wherever one might be, or even just performance for video, that a document that one wants for themselves. The theater has all these rules, and I always love that about the cinema. So you sit down at a certain time, the lights go out, this is your chair, and the journey is going to happen, and at a certain time it ends and the lights go up, and it's all very obvious. And that construct, I really like working within it, and I appreciate it. I appreciate the human understanding of that time period. So yeah, I've started doing a lot more work there, and I think that for me, it's about deconstructing cinema. So when I stopped making film, I didn't stop making films, but when I stopped only making films and started putting video onto walls and in spaces and things like that, I deviated from the sit down lights go out format, and I was continually frustrated by that, and still am, because I think video often is not given the space or time or tech that it needs in a lot of our visual art spaces. So I was kind of like, I wouldn't watch this. I don't know why anyone else would. So I was trying to figure out how to put things where they needed to be. And within the theater format, I found that that's probably the space that I want to break open the cinema space most. Um, but with your performance, I noticed that you're getting perhaps less technology into the performance, and it's getting more and more organic. Would you agree with that, or?
It does feel like, yeah, I feel like there's still some elements, but the crux of it is just the body itself and what I do with it. Um, I don't know, I feel like both of our work kind of deals with what's going on inside and using that as a way to speak about the outside. So
Mhm.
yeah, I feel like I'm kind of telling my story to share other people's stories. I'm talking about what's going on inside of me to express how my exterior is experiencing the world. I don't know.
Yeah,
Would you say that's about your work or no?
I think so. I'm trying to think. Yeah, it's often not obvious to me until it's way too late for me to sound intelligent about it. I don't know about you, but I'm like, oh, right, that was what I was doing 5 years ago. Like suddenly. That's So I have a blissful ignorance sometimes about what's going on. But what I was thinking then was that. Uh, I also remember talking to you about the billboard that you did for Austin Art Boards, and saying like, wow, that was so beautiful. And you had told me that you were thinking about the workers that would be working on these condos and developments, and putting that next to the thinking about the cage match piece. It was again this for this group of people who had become represented without their bodies, though,
Mhm.
right? So like via the clothing or the pattern or the print or the cultural context.
Mhm.
And so it makes sense that you're thinking about these these others that you can sort of bring their bodies into mind with yours. Does that make sense?
Definitely. Yeah. I think it's specifically the cage match. That one was kind of like my take on what that image represented to me, which is, things can represent different things, different people. And so for me, when I saw, for those who don't know, Moha has this project called Cage Match, and it's a big, I believe it's a hay or
Cotton, maybe, yeah.
kind of
Or wool, maybe. Yeah.
maybe, yeah. And artists install work inside of there, create and install work. And for me, seeing that, whenever I see trailers and things of that nature, my connection to the world is seeing it as a like 18 wheelers. Whenever I see those and I'm driving behind them, I can't help but think, are there, you know, people being trafficked inside of them? And you just hear these stories about these 18 wheelers being abandoned and all these people in there dying. And so that's where my context was. And I remember at the time of the opening of that, I had an artist who I admire, the work I admire, came up to me, a white male, and he was like, I don't get that. And then, which would have been fine, like obviously I don't expect everyone to have my same point of view, but then he said that because he didn't get it, that the work was unsuccessful. And I was just like, hmm, just because it's not the white male point of view doesn't mean it's not successful.
Yeah.
So I was just like, anyway, so that interaction helped me think a lot more about like, well, no, I need to like double down and stick to, this is my individual take on things, and I need to put that more into my work. So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
I'm curious on that story. Do you have any tips for other artists when you get a, I think I'm pretty versatile at hearing a critique when I'm ready for one. So if I'm in a critique, I'm ready, and you can, I enjoy, bring the theatrics, bring the nastiness, let's go. But
Tomato.
yeah, there's this sort of like this thing that folks can do in the art world where they come up to you and just suddenly give you, especially if you do performance, but often just that sudden critique, and so if you have any tips for people on how to handle that gracefully or not, or like how to throw a good punch, I'm curious, like what is your response to that type of.
Uh, I'm trying to think. Well, at that point, in that moment, I was just a little bit speechless because I was, first of all, like, openings are just for, congratulations, da da da, and then you have like the real conversations afterwards. So that it kind of, it did threw me a bit. But I think just smiling and nodding, especially if it's something is like, crossing the line like that.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if he had just left it as like, I don't get that image, then that would have opened up, a conversation of like, so what is your image? How do you interpret it? And think.
Right.
But when people are determined to cut it off like that, um, what can you do really? I think. I mean, have you experienced anything like that? Well, you were saying like after performances, right?
Yeah. And I think, people say the wildest things, but yeah, I'm trying to get better at responding in the moment. I mean, I think that's the challenge. But I don't I asked for graceful ways because I don't think that I have ways. I think maybe depending on how catty one wants to be,
Yeah.
you could offer them money to, for a crit sometime. Like, oh, you can pay me if you want to critique the work sometime or something. I don't know. That's pretty cunty, but
Offer them somewhere to sit. How about that?
you know, you know.
Yeah.
Are you tired? You look tired. So tell me about your pandemic creativity life. What have you been doing or not doing or.
Well, I had the forethought, well, actually not, to get into grad school. So that's really been like the foundation of what I've been making. And it's I love it because it's given me something to distract me from a lot of the monotony and whatnot from quarantining. But it's also like exhausting because I have a full-time job, and so I sit at a computer all day and teach, and then I sit at a computer all night and read and write,
Yeah.
and then I'm in the studio. So so it has its pros and cons. But I have been I've been doing more video work. I think that's kind of where my performance has been going out of necessity, but I've been wanting to go that direction anyway. You know, I've always really admired people who can work with video in the ways that you do, especially like um, I keep thinking back to the popsicle piece that you have, the orange popsicles. Love that so much. And so yeah, I would just like, you know, I want to see what my brand of video would look like, and so I've kind of been exploring that quite a bit. I got back into making music for a while. I hadn't done that in a long time, so it was like relearning old songs I'd written on the guitar and piano and etc. So yeah, what about you? Tell me what you've been obsessing over to to keep the
It's,
monotony at bay.
it's like a wave, it's like a roller coaster of this being, because I as well have a day job, 8 hours a day in this interface, so it's been up and down with that. Just the amount of time needed, this is everything, right? It's like socializing, grocery shopping, work. So I started making a lot of objects that, who knows, I think I've been making books. I made a book of the last show that I did, which I feel like is probably the best document of the show. And oddly, because it has so much video, it's impossible to document through video, I feel like.
Mm.
So the book and the text together were like really allowed me to like close that piece and feel like it's in the archive now, and that felt really fantastic. And being able to share that book with people. So all the little objects that I'm making and things like of that nature, I'm just putting it into a new book because I had such a exciting time making and sharing this book. And I feel like it was such a successful way for me to express my thinking and image making. So
Mm.
that, and I'm working on a new live show, so that is kind of like everything else in the pandemic, where it's like, how do I ask people to take part in something just yet, when vaccination rollout is so hit or miss for people. And um I want to have a live audience, if even just a very small one. So um really like tailoring the work to that, so that I can do it almost in a no matter what situation, but also leaving some space open. And that's, by the way, the work I've been trying to rope you into for a while now. So you'll hear more about that.
No,
Yeah, so that's a new theater piece.
yeah, I'm amazed that we haven't been able to collaborate yet, because
I know.
like we have a lot of maybe not obvious connections in our work, but I feel like I don't know, it's an energy maybe, if that to sound
Mhm.
cheesy.
No,
Um,
not at all.
Plus, I was, you know, since I met you, like I feel like I've known you forever. Kind of
Right?
really bizarre. I don't know. I've had very few people that I'm just like, that's a ride or die person right there. All right, I
Yeah, we
like
were
that.
in maybe a past life. We were like owned a restaurant together or something.
Yes.
Or like worked at the restaurant. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
Right. And soon, the restaurant. Like Davidson and Michael Anthony Garcia.
Maybe we'll start a restaurant. We're gonna need some eventually.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That won't fail at all. Artists running a restaurant.
Right. Oh, that's awesome. I wanted to ask you, do you have like a specific trajectory in mind for your career, or like goals that you have, or goalposts
Mm-mm.
maybe?
I have set those up every once in a while. At this point, I don't, goals for my career. When I was a really young filmmaker, I had the goal of not carrying my own gear everywhere. It was like, and I was sitting next to people in film school in New York that were like, oh, I want to be the next Scorsese. There was a lot of that. I want to be the next X. I want to be and then I found that those people no longer make films, and I don't carry my own shit. So that's been working for me a little bit, right? Like,
Love it.
I don't have to carry my own shit. I can, but you know what I mean. So I try to set really obtainable goals. So if I had to sort of off the cuff set a goal now, I'd say it would be to be able to tour a show, my next show, in order to learn more about the repetition of a show, as a writer and conceptually. Like, I've toured with other groups doing their work or music, or so, and I love being in the tour. That part is fun almost always, but the learning about how did what I wrote adapt to new spaces, or how did casting and working with these people, that we've made this thing that we all like, hopefully, like, how did it grow over time? Like, so that would be my goal now. And the work that I was making that was theater based in the past was absolutely too clunky to do a giant tour with, even though I did adapt it to be able to tour and was able to take it on the road a bit. But so this time I've definitely made something that is much more modular. And so I hope to learn about the work in that way. Other than that, I don't know. I'd like to live through the pandemic, emotionally and physically. So that's just, there's that goal, mentally. But other than so, but the bar has lowered since
Right.
2019.
Yeah.
But how about you? Do you have a big umbrella of a goal?
Um, I, I've noticed, especially during this last year, of like, because I live alone, so I spend a lot of time in my head, and kind of I have time to think about all of this and like practice, especially like being in grad school makes you think about your practice as well.
Yeah.
But just this idea of keeping what I do fun and enjoying it, maintaining a sincerity in my work, even if I'm working and developing larger projects, or maybe things that are out of my comfort zone, doing more, if I end up doing some more commercial type things, but not losing that essence,
Yeah.
and that integrity of like the things I want to speak about. So that's huge for me. Um, I've been treated very, very well by Austin and Texas as far as my artwork goes. And yeah, I want to expand out there, get to meet more audiences, like kind of like you're saying, touring your work. I like what you said though, because it makes your work sound like it's a living, breathing,
Mm.
evolving thing, and I really like that. Yeah, I'm gonna tuck that away for myself as well. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's what's fun. Like, I think about the live work is that it is different in Austin versus San Antonio versus Denver. Like, you're not going to have the same experience in London, and not your body, not the work, not the audience. So I think versus, making films and going with a film from cinema to cinema, it's such a contrast because the film never changes, but everything else does. So you have this actual like rigid piece.
Yeah.
Then you see, oh, well, this audience laughed at these times or cried at these times. You have So I don't know. I like that litmus testing of how does this operate in this other space. Can you talk more about wanting it to be fun? Because I definitely had that moment too in my practice where I was like, I'm working too hard for things that aren't maybe feeding me, which means they're probably not feeding anyone else.
No, it's definitely true. Yeah, it's fun, and also just that sense of fulfillment, I guess. Also, it's like, does it still feel? Because for me, like when I'm in the studio and I'm making, it's this very moment of zen. Like it's just like, it's like, okay, I'm on this path that I'm supposed to be on, and I'm picking up this thing like I'm supposed. It's almost like a deja vu in a way, but not quite.
Yes,
Uh,
yes,
yeah, and like when things just click one after another, and you're just like, okay, this is like totally, like, why can't the rest of life be like this? Or
yes.
just like,
Amen. Yes. Where is the flow? Like I'm just trying to find it, you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so early on, especially when I first started the grad work, I was like really focused on humor. I was like, I feel like my work used to be so much more humorous, and I mean, there's still elements of it in there, sly and some dark humor. But I was so obsessed with like, no, I need to get back to that. Whereas now I'm like, well, maybe maybe I'm not that person. I need to be sincere and real to who I am now, not who I used to be.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's still humor in there, but so yeah, that kind of that sensation side of like, okay, truly expressing myself. I'm being sincere in that expression. It's and hopefully that's what translates to people who experience the work, and they can. I think people can see that when work is sincere and when it's not.
Yeah.
Like I can see that in other people's work.
Yeah. I agree. And maybe we need that more than ever right now. Especially with the conflict so close at hand for so many things in the world not working, at all or not working well. So yeah, I think yeah, there's something also about someone being earnest or sincere and putting it out there that is hard to challenge, I think, even if it's not yet fully there, and this is something I've learned from young people
Mm-hmm.
recently. I think a lot of people that I'm meeting that are in their early career are they're actually so forthright
Mm-hmm.
and open about things. And I think especially thinking about queer history or anything like that, there's such a difference between my experience of that time in life. There was a lot I had to hide or work around or say, and I think you see that in films too, that we have as documents of the era, like a lot of side talk or humor or ways in which one skirts the issue and or innuendo. But that earnestness I've noticed is really refreshing to me about a lot of the younger people that I've worked with or met. So, and it allows you to drop in right away.
Mm-hmm.
You go, yeah, okay, I'm understanding. I'm here with you. Yeah, yes, and then like you said with it, if you need to work out whatever's happening or help or be a sounding board, whatever it is, it's right there. It's honest. It's sincere, and I think that's it saves a lot of cuts the bullshit, right?
Yeah, yeah, I like that. Do you see any trends happening in the work you're making now?
Trends in my work
Yeah,
or
yeah.
um yeah, so I am still interrogating the cinema. Casting is something I'm working with hierarchies of the entertainment industry labor, so if you will. So what a film set looks like, and how it's so hierarchical, and same with a theater space, how those rules can be broken. I'm really into systems, and so I'm
Mm,
seeing that as a pattern, and how to break the system
yes.
through group work is what I'm really interested in right now. And so the new work has that in it. So it's talking about solidarity and labor through performance. Um, and it's also, on some level, I am relinquishing authorship. So that's something I feel like I've done a lot in my early filmmaking, but never formally stated it. So a lot of times it was like, here's the crazy scene, everybody kind of do what you're feeling, like, oh, and but now I'm like, okay, here's the structure we're going to work with. If someone, and then so like, and here's the people we're working with. Now we are a closed set, right? So if someone doesn't like something, we're going to vote on it. Majority wins. And then that thing changes. So I'm interested in that, which I feel like is a very feminist way of making things. And just to say anyone can speak up at any time. And there, so I don't know about whether that's something I've been doing formally, but I feel like it's very on the surface now. And so I think it is a trend of the new interrogation of the system of making work that I'll be doing.
That's great. Yeah, sign me up. That sounds
I'm
wonderful.
trying. I am
Hey,
trying
hey,
to sign you up for
we
this.
have this video as a document. I am agreed to. Let's do it.
Are you seeing this a trend coming forth, and like in your studies, like,
Hmm.
because that's I don't know how you're doing it. Like, I don't know how you're doing it, but if you also have anyone you're really inspired by right now that you're learning about or reading or studying with, if you wanted to share that, I'd be really interested.
Yeah. Let me go to the first part. The trends, I would say maybe when I was first looking or sharing my work with the faculty, I was noticing that in a different way than the cage match situation, that some of the imagery was so specific to me
Hmm.
that I was debating whether or not I should have specific work for different audiences. So
Okay.
like some of the stuff that I'm working on in my videos, people who are here in the States most likely won't get it, but people in Mexico would get it.
Hmm.
And so I was like, okay, I gotta think in this
Yeah.
two-headed system. And the idea of having accompanying text to facilitate understanding of work, that was a big question that came up for me. And but I feel like now what I'm trending towards is incorporating text into the work itself
Hmm.
instead of having like something ancillary,
Yeah.
is that, yeah. In school, I've really been taking off and attaching myself to, I'm taking this excellent course right now with Pamela Sneed, which is writing and art, and it's titled Poetry, Performance, and Protest.
Okay.
And it's this wonderful mesh of all kinds of authors from different perspectives and with a focus on poetry and using that as a way to speak to truths. And yeah, it's wonderful. I'm getting back into writing poetry, which I hadn't done in forever. I was originally an English major actually when I went to undergrad.
Okay.
Yeah, and and then fell into an art class just by accident. I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I am right here.
Isn't that
Yeah,
funny where you're like, oh, yeah, I'll do that. This is
yeah, yeah,
great. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I actually left an art class in I thought I wanted to be in art class in junior high school, and then so did everyone else. It was like electives. And the guy next to me smelled terrible. And I remember and we were all stuffed in, And I was like, oh dear,
This is
this,
middle school though. Didn't everybody just stink?
I know. Well, he had a special thing going. So
Okay.
then the orchestra teacher came in and like demonstrated all these instruments because art class was too crowded. And he was like playing a few strings, and I was like, I'm going, I'm in. Like
Yeah.
I can't draw. So let's go. It's just funny where our lives lead us through these like small
Yeah.
moments and gestures, like
Yeah. What did you end up playing?
viola.
Oh, nice. Do you still play?
Yeah, it was great. It was great. I learned how to read music, and it was great.
Excellent.
Should we do our James Lipton questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. I wanted to, this is my idea. It's a total guilty pleasure. And we can use this as an end cap. So you can be as pensive or as rapid fire about these as you want. What is your favorite word?
Okay. I'm thinking in the way it sounds.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, I may have two. One, I love the word obsequious.
Oh,
I don't know
that's a
what it is about that word, something just the
yeah.
way it rolls off the tongue.
Uh-huh.
And one that I has actually been used to describe my work quite a few times is rascuache.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it's like this originated in kind of the Chicano art realm, and it's dealing with it's almost like this hybrid and integrating different things, and it's an empowerment of like what was like once like a kind of a classist term, kind of speaking of
Okay.
like a lower class,
Yeah.
about using old things in new ways. And I'm like, yeah, that perfectly defines what, what I do. I take
That's
that
so
subject,
badass. Oh
yeah,
my God, that's amazing.
but and it
Yes.
just sounds cool too, rascuache.
Yes.
What
Wow,
about
that's fucking
yeah?
cool. Okay.
What
Uh,
about you? What's your word or
what is,
words?
I like lozenge as a word.
A great word too.
Um, I like jubilee because some people hate it and it makes me laugh. And then I feel like I thought of something else, but I can't remember. Okay. What is your least favorite word?
Well, unlike most people, I'm not bothered by the word moist.
I was gonna say it's in ways.
I don't know why. I just don't. I don't. It must be like the cilantro thing. Like some people can
Right.
taste, some people can't. Um, what is okay? There's this word, and I'm gonna mess it up right now because I can. I don't. I just like it because I have a hard time pronouncing it. Is smorgasbord? I always feel like the Swedish chef whenever I say it.
Oh God, it's so good. Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
weird word. And you
yeah,
don't need it. You just don't need it.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that and also multidisciplinary, which is what I also use to describe practice.
Yeah.
Because whenever people ask me and I get to that word, I have this weird panic, and I always get the multi part, and then I forget the second half of the word. I don't know why. It's this weird mental block, and I use it all the time. Like I'm always tempted to say multi-dimensional, which sounds
Huh?
like I'm on
Yeah.
acid. Yeah, so multidisciplinary and smorgasbord.
Oh my God, that's good.
What about you?
That's my least pathetic. I really dislike this word. It
Yeah,
just, I mean, and I don't know. It just is.
yeah. It's a
What
great word.
turns you on?
Let's be on. Um, I'm gonna approach it from both senses of the phrase. I think smiles and eyes. So, and the traditional term of turning on, um, but also in the fact of like when I just connect with people in general, like
Mhm.
uh, which has been really hard now that we're all wearing masks, or at least most of us are, hopefully.
Yeah.
Not being able to see people's smiles, it's been really hard on me, like really strangely. But I do get to see eyes, and I think eyes are much more sincere than smiles can be. So that helps.
Sure. It's just not as much information as we used to have though, so it's wild.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And for you?
Competency is the turn on. So if someone's really good at something, I'm
Uh,
like, oh, hey. So I
yeah,
think that's like intelligence or any sort of, but like mastery of
yeah.
a craft or even something like a tool. Anyway,
Yeah.
let's move
So,
on.
so
What turns you off?
our master classes like your new XTube or?
They might like I might is there like a YouTube OnlyFans like where you kind of watch someone do something well but nude? I don't know. I'll check it out probably.
Right.
Probably
Yeah.
there. What turns you off?
Off. I would say unwarranted hubris. It's just like,
Ooh.
whoa. I can't stand when people are mediocre at what they do, but they act like they are the meadow. It's just like, ooh,
Yeah, that's a
yeah.
rough one. That's a rough
Especially when you see people who are really deserving of accolade and who work so hard and they're in the shadows. It's like that's it's aggravating more than hatred feeling. Yeah. Yeah. And you? What do you hate?
I saw my friend Molly said loud clapping at that one. She agreeing with the hubris. For me, I think a turnoff is ridicule. Like I'm really if someone is making fun of someone else, I really don't like it. Like I get and to the point where I will become probably misbehaving to where I'm like, you shot, I really don't like that. So
Yeah. Try being an elementary school teacher then.
yeah, I know. I know.
I have to nip that in the bud all the time. So
A
it's like,
lot of bullies in the world. Yeah, I guess that goes with bullying. What sound or noise do you love?
um, I was just having this conversation recently with my friend Dave. Well, you know Dave from the podcast.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So when we both go to Mexico every summer, and usually different places, but he can't get used to the sound of city noise and traffic and whatnot. It really messes with his sleep. And usually, so he goes to Guadalajara. I'm going to Mexico City. I love that sound for some reason. Something about it is just very. It has a lulling effect, and it just like I sleep like a baby when I'm in Mexico because of it. It's just like
Yeah.
the beeps, the people selling
Yeah.
things in the street, and it's just like I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah. What noise does it for you?
What noise do I love? I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty sound sensitive, so I might be like more thinking of like all these sounds I don't like. I, I'm gonna say really there are hawks that live in my backyard and they scream. If you ever heard of a hawk screaming, they just and it's like they talk to each other because they live together, which is really nice and it's nature. And I really like birds. But the way they scream, it's like old people in an 80s movie.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I am so there with you because I'm having actually a situation right now, and it's not a hawk. I don't know what kind of bird it is, but it feels like I'm in an Edgar Allan Poe story.
Okay. Yeah.
Bird, because I'm here 24/7 in this house, it goes
Yes.
to parts of wherever I am in my house. It goes to that window, and
Oh.
it's like this little. Imagine like a phone alarm that you can't shut off, and it follows
Yes.
you.
Yes. Yes.
And I've actually gone out there and argued with this bird on several occasions because I'm just like,
Yeah.
please, get me
Yeah.
some sanity, please. And I
Yeah.
have animals too, but it's just like something about being trapped with this repetitive noise is just like,
Yeah.
whew,
I know.
that's
And it's spring, I guess, and so they're all trying to be sexy,
yeah.
and it's no.
But this bird has not left since last summer. I think it's one bird actually, and he's really enjoying messing with me. Even during the freeze, he was out by my window.
Get out of town.
I'm like,
Maybe-
that's what I was telling him. I was like, go south. Go south, bird.
Oh my God, I love that. Let's see.
Sorry.
What is your favorite curse word? This is the pure Lipton here. He gets a little twinkle in his eye when he asks.
Yeah. It rhymes with other plucker. How about that?
Okay. All right.
Something about that, just like, that you get that F on the
Yes.
beginning and you end with a like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think right now I'm into like jackass or horse's ass. Like I feel like they're dying out a little bit, so we've got to bring them back. And then I know I'm not supposed to pick a lot, but cunt too. And the British really yield this in the proper way. I don't.
You see
I
it in all
can't.
kinds of British programs. They love that word. It's like whatever,
Yeah. 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 There's a film I love called Nil by Mouth, and one of the characters is screaming at his mother, calling, "Mother, you fucking cunt," and it's like, oh, that's you don't get any filthier mouth than that. So
No.
okay. We have one final question. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
All right. I'm assuming aside from what I'm doing now, teaching, which I love, but it's a lot. I would probably have, actually, there was a pivotal point when I first moved to Austin, whether I was going to keep going with my art practice or switch over to music. So I sometimes wonder where would I be if I had gone down that path instead. Yeah, there's just something very fulfilling again about music, that
Yes.
whole discussion we had about performance, like you're just in that moment and you're
Mhm.
interacting with the audience. Yeah, what about you? You want to be a professional viola player?
Yeah, no, not that. But I would want to be a musician. Like I think at times I'm often like, why wasn't I a singer-songwriter? Because it just seems so simple. Like you take your body and like a guitar and you go, um, but that, yeah, or like I would have liked to play slide guitar, I think, specifically.
Ooh,
I could just like, get older, put on a big hat, slide it out, whatever,
yes. Okay, just so you know, I've been taking notes from all this, and these are elements we're going to be using in our theatrical piece that we're going to do.
Hey, it'll be up for a vote, so you probably gonna win.
Gotta have the slide guitar, gotta have the hat,
Yeah, okay.
gotta have the screeching birds.
Dreams come true. All
Oh,
right. I
this was
think yeah. Well,
glad to get to talk to you. It's been a while.
likewise, I miss you.
Miss you too. Yes. Okay, we'll have to do our own little personal Zoom outside of an organization to catch up
Yeah.
and
We can
collaborate.
say all the curse words then.
There we go.
Okay. Thanks to Big Medium and POCa and Justin and
yes, you all have been
Yeah.
awesome. Appreciate this opportunity to get to connect. Yeah.
okay.
All right. Well, take care.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.